Last month, Patrick and his wife Jessica decided to go on vacation. They hadn't been traveling together for more than 2 years, and they wanted to get away from it all, and including their kids and work, leave New York and go somewhere abroad. It seemed to be hard enough for them to decide where to go. And then they chose China, and because Jessica has Chinese roots and she was interested in Chinese culture and her family history. Of course, Patrick wasn't too enthusiastic about going to China, but then after reading a lot about natural wonders and about historical landmarks of China, he was fascinated by the beauty of this country, and he was ready to go on a trip. Of course, he also wanted to try authentic cuisine in China. And they used to opt for ready-made package tours, but this time they decided to travel on their own without any operators. First of all, they bought their airplane tickets online and booked hotel rooms in Beijing and Shanghai. They wanted to visit the capital of China and Shanghai because there lived Jessica's relatives, and they wanted to pay them a visit. For an American, for an American to visit China, one needs to get a visa. They filled in an application form and got their travel insurance and applied for a multiple entry visa. It means that they won't need to extend it for the next 10 years. After that, after getting their visa, they started to pack their suitcases. Of course, they were very nervous on the night before their flight. They left their kids at the grandparents, and they asked their friends to take care of their dog. Jessica started to pack the suitcases. It took her about several hours while Patrick was reading a China guide. Of course, they went to bed too late, and the next morning they woke up late. They overslept. They got dressed in a hurry, skipped breakfast, and got a taxi to the airport. They were afraid to get stuck in a traffic jam and miss the plane. But when they arrived at the airport, they understood there was nothing to worry about, as all the flights were delayed because of the severe storms. They were glad the flights weren't cancelled at all, and they were flying the direct flight. For the next few hours, they were sitting in a cafe, drinking coffee, and waiting for their flight. Then, at last, they checked in for the flight and got their boarding passes. And there they had to pay for extra baggage, as Jessica had managed to take so much stuff that they exceeded the baggage allowance. Then they got in line to go through airport security, and they checked the prohibited items in their carry-on bags. Jessica had taken a bottle of perfume in her backpack and they had to throw it away. Then they proceeded to the boarding gate and sat waiting for a boarding call. At last, they got on a plane. Luckily, none of them had an aisle seat, and Jessica sat by the window and Patrick next to her. Jessica was watching her comedy series on a tablet, and Patrick was reading his Chinese phrase book. The flight lasted over 13 hours, and when they arrived in Beijing, they were very tired. After going through the customs and immigration, they claimed their baggage and wanted to rent a car, but being very exhausted, they decided to get a taxi to the hotel, as it was too stressful and risky to drive in a foreign country. When they got the hotel, there was a little misunderstanding, as the receptionist couldn't find their names on their database. She didn't speak much English, and Patrick managed to explain her that they had already made a reservation for a double room, and the problem was fixed finally. The problem was just because of misprinting their names, and there they were all set. Then later they went to withdraw some money and to exchange it, as it was easier to pay with cash in some places like markets, taxis, and little cafes. They went sightseeing. They hired a Chinese-speaking tour guide who showed them famous attractions and a lot of beautiful places in the city. They also attended museums, taking self-guided audio tours, and then they were fascinated with the beauty of the city, of course. Later then took a high-speed train to Shanghai, where they visited Jessica's relatives, who turned out to be very nice and hospitable people. They spent a few days just looking around the city. They enjoyed a city tour and excursion tour, and they got to a place famous for its pandas and delicious spicy food. They took a lot of pictures, and Jessica made a video on her YouTube channel. And of course, the vacation lasted 2 weeks, but it felt like 2 days. They liked China very much, and they got a lot of impressions, and Patrick could describe all his experience in more details, but he strongly recommends you to go to China and see everything with your own eyes.